There are over 178,000 confirmed cases globally, and the death toll now exceeds 7,000. France has announced a 15-day lockdown. The EU's borders will be shut for 15 days. The US has recommended avoiding gatherings of more than 10 people. That's the strictest advice we've seen come from US President Donald Trump so far. The UK has also dramatically tightened its social isolation measures, including for the elderly and pregnant women. Canada's shut its borders to almost all foreign arrivals. Well, a bit late to the game there, but very strict for Canada. Indeed, to Australia now, where there have been more than 400 cases confirmed of coronavirus. The death toll remains at 5. In New South Wales, that is the hardest hit state so far. There have been 171 confirmed cases after another 37 people were confirmed to be carrying coronavirus overnight. The number of cases in Victoria has jumped to 94. The Prime Minister will also be preparing a financial support package that comes after the stimulus package from last week, and this looks like it is going to be scalable as promised and scaling up as needed. The Morrison government's also facing what could be another rate cut coming out of the Reserve Bank in an extraordinary out-of-cycle interest rate decision. Now, Qantas has revealed it will slash overseas flights by 90% as the coronavirus crisis deepens. Live now to political reporter Trudy McIntosh. Trudy, the Morrison government's not ruling out any bailouts for major airlines if they're needed.
Yeah, focus a lot today, Annalise, on the future of the airline industry in Australia as it comes to grips with this growing coronavirus outbreak. We've seen this update from Qantas in the last hour or so, providing an update to the ASX about its position. Qantas making it clear that they will be slashing their international capacity by 90% up until the end of May. And we will also see in the domestic sector a cut of 60%. So a significant impact on the level of travel being able to done by Qantas. They are making the case that this is the equivalent of grounding 150 aircraft right across its network, and concede that it will have an impact on the entire 30,000 strong workforce that Qantas employs. Where they can, they're urging Qantas staff to take leave, whether that's paid or unpaid leave, to help get through this time. We know that it's something the government is focusing on. The Trade and Tourism Minister this morning, Simon Birmingham, stressing the importance of keeping these routes open, that if the economy is to continue to bubble away, that they do need to have access to flights right across the country. But he was specifically asked, Simon Birmingham, would the government at the worst case resort to bailing out the two major airlines? Here was his answer.
As I said, not having airlines in Australia is not negotiable for a country like us and would cripple our recovery. So of course we have to be ready to respond as and when necessary. But the airlines, as private enterprises, are doing everything they can at present to protect their balance sheets, to respond to these emerging circumstances that are putting enormous pressure upon them.
And Trudy, the Finance Minister today had a pretty frank warning about the possibility of businesses going under as well as job losses.
He certainly did, Annalise. It was a coordinated message out of the government ministers today saying that we will see businesses close and Australians will be losing their jobs. It comes as the government is working on this second wave of stimulus, just 5 days ago announcing $17.6 billion worth of measures. The admission today is that that is simply not enough, that this needs to be scaled up, and we will see an additional package of measures announced in the coming days before they can be legislated next week. In terms of who's expected to get this support, Mathias Cormann saying that we'll be going to these businesses that have been hardest hit, but households also likely to get a boost when it comes to this. Here was his strong message, as well as Simon Birmingham, this coordinated message, very sobering about the impact to the economy.
It is clear that the economic impact of the coronavirus continues to worsen in Australia and around the world. That is why our response to it needs to strengthen accordingly. So we're very conscious that as we are looking at things today, that many businesses will close and many Australians will lose their jobs.
But ultimately, we're not going to be able to save every single business or every single job either. I mean, this is a terrible, terrible event that we're dealing with.
The National Cabinet will be also meeting tonight. That's the Prime Minister and also members of all the state and territory governments. They're expected to look at two things: the closures and limitations put on visits to aged care centres, but also whether more restrictions need to be placed on public gatherings in enclosed places. Read into that things like pubs and clubs, Annalise.